Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about your license. In order to practice dental hygiene in the United States, you need to have a license. In the US, the federal government gives the states permission to determine how they want to give licenses and make sure that all of the licensees have the specific requirements needed to carry out a certain duty. Now, this goes beyond dental hygiene, this goes even beyond healthcare. There are lots of different licenses that you can hold, and the purpose of a license is in order to keep the public safe. Now, think of the salon when you go get your nails done, right? The person that's doing that is licensed to do a manicure. Estheticians, cosmetologists, there are a lot of different licenses. And again, it protects the public to make sure that the people that are performing those services are trained and educated so you are getting proper care. So what is a license? A license is basically a piece of paper, but really it is the permission by your governing body, which in this case is the states, to perform services to the public. This means that anybody that is engaging in that service without a license would be breaking the law. There are a number of different things you need to do to get a license. The first thing in all 50 states is to graduate from a dental hygiene school that is accredited. Accreditation is extremely important, and accreditation in the US is managed and governed by the Commission on Dental Accreditation. That is an arm of the ADA that regulates dental hygiene schools, making sure that they are all getting their graduates to certain levels of competence, both in clinic and didactic factual knowledge. Accreditation actually improves academic quality because it makes sure that all programs are meeting those specific standards. This is essentially a quality control process that happens over a span of 5 to 10 years, and in dental hygiene specific, the cycle is 7 years. This is really good because it makes sure that programs are meeting those standards, and it helps you as a student select a good program because you want an accredited program. Another thing you need to do in order to get a license is to pass all your exams. There are 3 specific exams that you need to pass in order to be eligible for a dental hygiene license. The first exam is the National Dental Hygiene Board exam. This is a written exam. You have 9 hours to take it, and it covers all of the knowledge that you learned in dental hygiene school. It covers all of the sciences, it covers clinical application through case studies, and it's really good at making sure it's a check and balance system, right? You graduate from accredited program, but that school makes those requirements, right? So while, every 7 years they go through accreditation, the National Dental Hygiene Board exam is like another check and balance in the system. It makes sure that every single dental hygiene graduate has to pass that written exam. And so most accredited programs have to make sure that you are knowledgeable and able to pass the board exam. That is their goal. Next is the regional clinical exams. Now, this has changed quite a bit over time, as most things do, but regional clinical exams are required to make sure that you have the clinical skills, the clinical competence in order to do a teeth cleaning. This used to be very regional, meaning that if you wanted to work in a state with a certain regional test, you had to actually pass that test. But over time, especially with COVID and the mannequin or simulated exams, they have found that they are starting to merge programs and make them more nationally recognized. And this is a really good thing if you want license portability. For example, CDCA, REB, and CITA have all merged into ADEX. ADEX is a big clinical exam that many states accept. Credits is a central regional dental test, and then we have SRTA, which is the southern regional. Now, again, as I said, a lot of states now are accepting ADEX as reciprocity. Again, licensure portability is getting easier and easier. What we are going to see though around the end, it sounds like about the fourth quarter of 2025, is that there is going to be a nationally recognized dental hygiene licensing OSCE. And so that's an objective structured clinical exam. And I am not sure what it's going to look like once it rolls out. How many states are going to look to that as now their regional exam? I'm not sure. Stay tuned. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of changes the landscape of clinical exams. It's important for you to really understand what your state accepts for licensing. So make sure if you're wanting to get a license in one specific state, you understand what regional tests they accept. And the ADHA is a great resource for that. I have it linked both in the PowerPoint that goes along with this presentation, and I will link it in the descriptions of everywhere this is posted. But keep an eye on the ADHA. They update those resources regularly, and that's the best place to look if you want to move state to state. And then finally, the third exam that you'll need to take is a jurisprudence exam. There really is no preparing for that exam until you get to the point where you need it. Again, because as you've heard in my other videos, state requirements change and the Practice Act changes yearly. Your state, whatever state you're going to, is going to have its own jurisprudence exam. You have to be prepared for that by understanding the scope of practice, supervision levels, continuing ed requirements, all of the things that fall under the requirements to keep a license in that state. There's a couple different license types that you can seek out, and the most common is initial, right? Getting your initial license is making sure you've checked all the boxes and hit all of those requirements. But there are other license types that you might qualify for depending on if you're moving to a state or your job. For example, if you're just moving from state to state and you have been practicing for a number of years, you may be able to get a license by reciprocity or credential. That just means that they're going to look at the credentials that you have that your state has accepted and accept you as a licensee applicant based on the credentials of your state that you're coming from. You can also get a faculty license. This means that you are agreeing to only serve as an active faculty member, but not actually be providing services. This actually comes into play a lot when it comes to foreign trained dentists. Foreign trained dentists may come into the United States, not be able to practice dentistry, but they can obtain a faculty license and teach at a school, but not do those services to the public. A temporary license is an option if you're moving to a state and have a job lined up, but maybe their cycle or their board doesn't meet for a few months. They may be willing to give you a temporary license based on your credentials, and then you apply for their initial licensure once their board meets and are able to approve your full application. The final type is a volunteer license, and this is really nice, especially for us in our region. We have a lot of states around us, right? And so, for example, we are really close to Iowa, and so we can apply for an Iowa volunteer license and go do a mission of mercy, which we have done before, and volunteer our clinical time just on a very, very short-term basis. So you applied for your license, you've got it. Now, what are the things that you need to be aware of? These are specific licensing requirements that just kind of fall on the umbrella of having a license, and what does it mean? The first thing is that you have to have it displayed in your place of practice. So if you kind of moonlight at a number of different offices, or you temp, or you work in two different places, both of those places or all of those places that you work, you have to display your license so it's visible to the public. This is really important for public trust and being aware that this person that is doing my periodontal therapy actually has a license and they are safe and they provide care in the state under the governing body of that state. You also probably need to have specific certificates or add-ons to your license if your state allows you to do different scopes. So for example, in South Dakota, you can do local anesthesia and nitrous oxide with certificates. So I have to be certified in those things and show that I have taken additional education or a certification course in order to provide local and nitrous. You have to have those specific certificates. You know, in some states, you might need a certificate to do laser. You might need a certificate to do Botox. And so it's important that, again, you understand the scope to make sure you're not doing those things under your general license, but you have additional training in order to perform those extra duties. You also have to be aware of renewal times. You don't want to let your license lapse just because you missed the renewal date. Some states renew annually, some states renew biannually, and some states do not have your renewal timeline line up with your continuing ed timeline. So that's important to remember. For example, in South Dakota, our renewal is annual. We have an annual renewal schedule, and every June, June, every June we have to renew our license. But our CE cycle is every 5 years. That means we have to get 75 of those continuing education credits every 5 years. Because they don't line up, a lot of the times our state will choose to audit us. And that just means that they are going to audit, say maybe on your 3rd year of your 5-year cycle to make sure that you're still continuing to add continuing education credits. And they usually do that through their website. It's a tracking tool. Many states do this online, and it just makes sure that even though they're not checking your CEs every year, they are keeping an eye on it. Again, the ADHA has a great resource on their website that helps you find your state and figures out how many CE credits you need and what the cycle is. So if you have any questions about any state that you're going to, I will link that in the description. Finally, with every renewal, you're going to have to pay some fees. And in the state of South Dakota, our fees are per certificate. So I have a fee for my nitrous, a fee for my local, and a fee for the full exam. Because the state is our governing body, the state is also in charge of doing any disciplinary provisions that they have to in order to keep the public safe. For any number of reasons, you can be reported to the board for investigation, and the outcomes of that investigation could be that your license is suspended, you could get a restriction on your license, or your license could be completely revoked. There are 2 ways that they can do this. One is through the criminal or civil laws in your state, and these are just basic laws. One example in South Dakota is the mandatory reporting law. That has been written into law that now dental hygienists are mandatory reporters. So if you don't report, that falls under those types of laws that you're breaking, and that could impact your ability to keep your license. Another way you could get your license revoked or restricted is through your scope of practice. If you are practicing outside your scope, or you are not following clinical standards of care, if you are clinically incompetent, you are unable to perform, and it has showed through patient complaints. And finally, substance use or abuse, that may be affecting your provision of care. All of those things could be reasons why you are reported to the board and have your license suspended, restricted, or revoked. So what is your role as a hygienist? Your role is to keep your license current, make sure you are following all of the rules, you are meeting all of the continuing education requirements in your state, and you are maintaining public trust. That is the main thing, right? As a licensee of dental hygiene, you are representing every single dental hygienist in the US. And so it is essential for you to make sure you're practicing to the Practice Act, you're following all the supervision laws, and you maintain your records. Not only does that protect the public, but it also protects you, right? Making sure that you have really strong records in case they audit you, or even just remembering your due date so you don't let your license lapse just because you forgot to renew at that time. And now don't be afraid. They will send you plenty of reminders, but it's just really, really important. This is your career. This is your paycheck, right? This is your job. This is your ability to make money. And so take it serious. Make sure you are checking and following all the rules. Having a license is a big responsibility, but it's also a big honor. And so once you become licensed, take care of that license. Make sure that you are doing everything in your power to foster a sense of community within your professional realm. Be proud of your license and show it off, and do the best you can for that public display of this is what dental hygiene is. Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next one.